Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes
Pretending
away?
it's a watch. I need batteries.
Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Thank you to the voice who always gets me on the air. I'm Bonnie D. Happy to be here, and we've got an interesting show for you. I've covered this topic over the years, and Brenna Berman may not remember, but last time you were on was almost exactly 1 year ago today.
I do remember.
I think it was May 5th, 2025, and Don might have been here with us too as well, and we had two other people, and we're welcoming a newcomer today, Jamie Ponce, and I have to get the accent aigu on your last name, so I'm going to do an introduction here. And by the way, I think it's George Clooney's birthday today. It is. See, Brenna, she knows. Okay. All right. So let me do my introduction here. And I have a special gift for each of you. I don't know if you've had one of these yet, Brenna. I'm not sure if Don and Jamie, I hope you're surprised. So welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now. Come explore how AI will help make cities smarter than ever before. Bonnie D on her Scarlett Mic is leading the way with three visionary futurists. That's all of you sharing their bold predictions today. Wave when I call your name. Brenna Berman, Don DeLoach, and Jamie Ponce share insights new with AI-driven ideas bringing smart urban growth into view. Be inspired as innovation and imagination ignite today on the future of cities plus AI, getting smarter and doing it right. Brenna, here's your introduction. From Holyoke, Massachusetts, where curiosity took its start, with a social worker, father, and compassion at the heart. Her mother worked the phone lines while young Brenna loved to read, discovering through books and stories where imagination could lead. At 6, a trip to Chicago changed Brenna's world and point of view. Its energy, its motion, its spirit sparked a lifelong passion true. An uncle in computer science put technology in Brenna's mind, while ballet taught her how precision, grace, and discipline aligned. From University of Chicago halls where policy and purpose grew, to IBM and global cities where innovation came into view, as Chicago's CIO, Brenna imagined how data could unite, creating smarter services where technology served residents right. Now, through her city tech and AI, Brenna helps communities chart what's next, building smarter, stronger cities where humanity with innovation connects. Brenna, welcome back. I hope you like that.
Thank you. Somebody's been reading Innovation on Tap.
There you go. And now it's time to welcome back Don. From Georgia roots, where ambition showed at an early age, young Don chased real jobs long before the business stage. From altar boy weddings to IHOP shifts in sight, he learned early responsibility, hustle, and leadership right. At Georgia Tech, engineering sharpened systems in Don's mind, while entrepreneurship and innovation steadily intertwined. When venture-backed startups faced uncertain roads ahead, Don became their trusted voice, bringing clarity instead. From youth-centric through turnarounds where resilience led the way, he helped transform struggling ventures into stronger paths each day. Co-founding the Midwest IoT Council as Connected Futures grew, Don explored how smart technologies reshape what cities can do. From the future of IoT to AI's expanding stage, he now mentors entrepreneurs in a fast-evolving age. Through Rocket Wagon, Smart City Works, and Illinois Tech Insight, Don helps launch bold ideas where leadership and innovation unite. Don, I hope you like that.
Wow, Bonnie, that was the best I've heard. I'm very impressed. And by the way, the other co-founder of the Midwest IoT Council is also on this call. So all good.
Oh, there we go. Now it's time for newcomer Jamie. So from Milwaukee's vibrant streets where curiosity took flight, with science fiction, service, and adventure shaping his insight. Jamie's dad was a teacher and publisher. Mom worked in healthcare with grace. Their laughter, travel, and perseverance lessons helped Jamie find his space. From Indiana University to Harvard's storied halls, Jamie studied systems, cities, and the forces that were shaping it all. With liberal arts and business blended thoughtfully in view, he learned how smart collaboration helps bold ideas ring true. From climate leadership to mobility and urban change, Jamie thrives where wicked problems push innovation's range. At CINCO now, he guides infrastructure futures yet to spark where technologies and communities connect to leave their mark. From scuba dives to hiking trails and archaeology's ground below, Jamie follows curiosity wherever the new adventures flow. Jamie, I hope you like that.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. It's a
Yeah.
gift indeed. What an arc.
You're welcome. So stay tuned, valued audience, as bold new visions ignite, where smart cities and AI reshape how communities unite. With Bonnie D and her three futurists exploring what tomorrow may bring, we'll imagine the future where AI innovation takes wing. Thank you all. Show's over. Okay, I did my part. No, we're just getting started. Don, I'm glad you like it. It's always a challenge with Don because he's been on so many times, and sometimes he says, I don't know if I really like them. And that was kind of mad. And I said, I have to really do. Sylvie and Jamie, I have a French collaborator named Sylvie, and I'll tell you later who she is. And we jockey back and forth on the origin stories and come up with the right version. And I keep saying no, and she keeps saying maybe, and we go back and forth. I'll tell you later. So let's go around the table and get some updates from each of you, please. Brenna, an update from you, an update from Don, and newcomer Jamie, first time. So tell me, take 2 or 3 minutes and fill in the blanks, connect the dots a little more on what I introduced about you. Brenna, I'm putting you on speaker view. You look beautiful today, by the way. Well, you always do, but I'm loving this. So, Brenna, tell us what's going on.
Hi, Bonnie. It's great to be back here. Always fun. What's been going on? I mean, I think like everyone else, it's AI all the time, and I'm spending a lot of my time right now focused on how cities and communities can view AI as an enabler of policy change. Lots of cities are adopting AI from an efficiency perspective, which is so important. They're all struggling so much financially. But I'm working with a couple of cities to really push them to begin to think about how AI can help them better understand and reshape policies that will improve outcomes. Other than that, I'm just waiting for summer to get started.
Rumor has it you've got a young person in your household who's ready to take their driving permit. Am I allowed to say that on the show?
Yep, I do. My son will be getting his learner's permit today, so I would recommend everyone in Dallas stay off the roads.
I'm going to say, I think maybe Mazel Tov, Mom. We'll just go with that, okay?
Maybe.
Well, maybe we'll think
Maybe.
about that. And Don, you're intrepid. You are a road warrior. You are there in between conferences, on a phone, in your car. And special thank you to you for showing up. I appreciate it. Don, I'm putting you on speaker view. Why don't you take a couple minutes and bring us up to date with you? Welcome back.
Well, it's good to be back, always. So I've been neck deep in a stealth mode startup that I'm leading that is really interesting in ways that none of which I can talk about. So that part will be short. I also have been advising an industrial company that has taken me into another world that, again, is filled with stuff I can't be talking about right now. And then I've been pretty deep in working with some of the startups coming out of Illinois Tech. And actually, we're at the final stages of building an agentic network that is designed to help the entrepreneurial journey. So I sent it out to 10 startups, founders that I know, some from Smart City Works, some from Illinois Tech, just to get their feedback as we sharpen the tool. But not unlike what Brenna said, everything I'm doing has a big AI component to it. But it's been extremely interesting across a number of different levels. And at some point at a later show, I'm hopefully I'll be happy to go into all the things I've been doing behind the scenes, because you would never, ever believe it. I wouldn't have if somebody told me a year ago. So at any rate,
Well,
sorry to
Don,
be vague though.
no, not vague at all. I appreciate the confidentiality. Very, very respected. I will tell you that I recently did a show on the future of founders and AI. And I had three found. One was a nonprofit and two were profit. And two of them have written books about the journey of founders. And if you want to bring me some founders later this year when they're ready, I would welcome you back with 2 or 3 founders and we'll talk about it. Doesn't have to be necessarily AI, it could be their technology journey, it could be other types of tech. So why don't you keep that in the back of your mind on the other 1.2 million things you're keeping in the back of your mind right now, and let me know when you're ready, and we'll book a show. I would love to have you bring some founders. You interested?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Good. Okay. Short and sweet. And Jamie Ponce, I'm so happy to have you here. And Jamie, you come well recommended. Well, Brenna brought you, and I'm thrilled to meet you. I'm putting you on speaker view. Why don't you fill us in a little bit of connect the dots of what I described? And what are you doing now? Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Bunny. I'm glad to be here. I've heard you and Brenna and Don on the show before, and am really thrilled to join the party. So my career focuses on those wicked problems that you mentioned in the intro. I started out in corporate strategy work, and then took a hard left into municipal government and climate advocacy. Working as an embedded official in the city of Chicago, working on energy, transportation, and climate in the US, and also through a global network of megacities working to solve a lot of similar issues around local government governance, resource use, and managing complex cities. That work has evolved over time into infrastructure technology. I currently lead Civic Infrastructure Collaborative, which actually stemmed from some of the work that Brenna led in the city of Chicago. But we're a nonprofit infrastructure tech accelerator with the goal of unlocking public and private value through technology and cross-sector collaboration. On the home front, summer is coming to Chicago. Unlike Brenna, who's putting her son behind the wheel, the training wheels are just coming off in our house. So similarly, need people to watch out for our 5-year-old on 2 wheels who is tearing up the streets.
Oh, we got to do a show on bicycles coming up soon. I don't know what parents and grandparents go through. Yeah, my grandkids are. My granddaughter just graduated from the University of Georgia School of Veterinary Medicine, magna cum laude, with her degree as a veterinary surgeon this week, and I'm very, very proud. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So training wheels are off, kids. No comments on the years, please. Okay, so yeah, I started when I was 12, Jamie. It's been quite a ride. Okay, so let's go to the part of the show where we have interesting quotes. I've asked each of you to bring me a quote from a song or a TV or movie fictional character, and you're going to relate the quote to our topic today, the future of cities plus AI, getting smarter and doing it right. That's a long title. So Brenna has sent a quote. One of my favorites. People used to use this all the time on the show. Haven't heard it in years. It's a song by the late, great David Bowie from his Hunky Dory album in 1971. It was released as a single from the album in January. The song is called Changes. It's frequently used in TV and episodes dealing with transformation, no surprise, as well as in the film Shrek 2. The song, which features piano by Rick Wakeman, is iconic for, and it's coming up. And I have to tell you, Lego finally released a Shrek scalable building toy this week. Shrek is 25 years old. It took that long. It's Shrek and Donkey and the little, I'll just say the cat in boots. I can't say the other word. I'm not supposed to. Everybody's shutting down. Anyway, here's the quote Brenna has picked. Turn and face the strange. And you know the line goes, change. Brenna, what does this have to do with our topic? Welcome. Tell me.
Yes, I mean, I know it's probably an obvious one, and you're right. I think we've heard it a lot, but so two reasons I chose it. David Bowie is my all-time favorite innovator, and I think we need innovators like that across fields to actually really think about the transformation that AI can lead as opposed to just driving efficiency. I also think it applies because it underscores that idea that you can't stick your head in the sand. And I don't think a day goes by that I run into all 3 kinds, I think, of organizations, right? The ones that are barreling down the hallway of AI and there's no stopping them, they are gung ho. The organizations that are, on the other side of the coin and convinced that the machines are going to come for us and they are completely opposed to it. Which, may not be wrong either. And there's those organizations in between. But I think there's a third set that I'm starting to work with now, which are those who have decided that AI is just a technology like any other we've had in the past. And they'll address it, but it's not going to fundamentally change their lives, their businesses, what they do day to day. And those are the organizations that actually concern me because they're not thinking critically about what to do, whether it's a positive or negative perspective. And they're the ones that are going to miss both the opportunities and addressing the risks that come in this period of AI.
Very, very interesting. That's almost a microcosm of what the world is thinking about and dealing with in terms of AI. Should you be afraid? Should you be excited? You have a combination of both reactions? I
Yep.
think that's where we want people to be.
But whatever you do, don't ignore it.
That's right. That's where I want this show to go. That's why I talk about the positives and the opportunities of AI. Go anywhere else and hear all the fears and the OMGs, but we want to talk about the opportunities that will skew people in the direction of maybe there is good and how can we harness that? That's what we're looking for. So thank you, Brenna, and let's go to Don's quote. And Don has picked a quote from Moneyball. Peter Brand, played by Jonah Hill, very prolific actor. 2011. It is a biographical sports film. Let's see. It was adapted by Steven Zalem and Aaron Sorkin, directed by Bennett Miller. Stars Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Robin Wright, and Chris Pratt. Great. It is based on the 2003 book, Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game by Michael Lewis about the Oakland A's 2002 season. And here is the quote. It's a long one. Put your seatbelt on, Don. There is an epidemic failure within the game to understand what is really happening. And this leads people who run Major League Baseball teams to misjudge their players and mismanage their teams. Oh, Don, let's relate this to our topic, please. Go.
I mean, if you think of a city and all of the inner workings that run far and wide, and then you think of how decisions have been made for ages, and you compare that to the whole quote from Jonah Hill, the idea is that there's just this massive amount of data that is informative, but harnessing that has always been a challenge. And one of the things about AI is that it breaks through that in ways that should theoretically allow us to begin to make better decisions. You look at almost every baseball team in Major League Baseball. Everyone has a front office that's going up one side and down the other, doing the things that that Billy Beane pioneered, although he would say he wasn't the pioneer, but what they did in Oakland, back at that point. And it's all about the data and making sense of it and making better decisions as a result. And I think that AI can do that, not only do that for cities, but do that for cities in a way that makes a difference in people's lives that wouldn't be enabled otherwise.
Opportunities, benefits, excitement, future, what ifs, right, Don? All of those and more.
Yep.
And that's what we want to think about is listen, I was the last kid on the block to buy a microwave oven back in the day. And how many of us were afraid of cell phones? Some people still are. And look at all the technologies that we have adopted. And who knew you'd be anywhere in the world holding Donna sitting in a car in the middle of Virginia or West Virginia somewhere talking to us with no wires, no cables on a phone. This was all new and exciting and scary technology just a few years ago, right? And here we are, embracing, adapting, and using it. So there we go. Thank you, Don. And let's go to Jamie's quote. Jamie has picked an interesting quote from Peter Gibbons, played by Ron Livingston. The film is Office Space. I don't think I've ever seen it. 1999 satirical black comedy film. Satirizes the work life in an office in a typical 1990s software company. I was working for a bunch of those, I have to tell you, focusing on a handful of individuals who were weary of their jobs. Stars Ron Livingston. Jennifer Aniston was in this. Gary Cole. If any series on TV today, Jamie, needs an actor to be a lead, they take Jamie Cole. They say, you can keep the beard, you can keep the hair that's way too long, too much of everything, and you can come and be the star. He's on NCSI. He was on FAM. He was on the Good Fight. He was everywhere. He's everybody's husband, everybody's leader. And so I love Gary Cole. Stephen Root, David Herman, Ajay Nadu, and Diedrich Bader. I think I know who that is. So here is the quote Jamie has selected. Human beings are not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day. Oh, Jamie, there's so much humor in this and so much irony. Please rescue me. What does this have to do with our topic? Oh,
Absolutely. Thank you, Bonnie. So Office Space did not win any Academy Awards. It didn't have baseball players. It didn't have gladiators. It didn't have astronauts. But for folks who saw it, it captured this really interesting moment as we were just about to turn the page on the 20th century. And it looked at workplace through a Black comedy lens, just as we were moving into this new age you were describing of high-speed internet, of mobile connectivity. And I think in moments of great technological change like that, like we're experiencing right now, it's more important than ever to really stop, pause, and reflect a minute on who we are, what we're doing, and why we're here. And when people think of Office Space, sometimes they remember the red stapler, or they remember this scene where the office workers are beating up a printer with a baseball bat in the yard and sort of venting their frustration with technology. But I think there's much more than that to it. I mean, 27 years ago in 1999, AOL and Microsoft were the tech titans. Palm Pilots were all the rage among the early adopters of mobile tech. IEEE 802.11b was about to be rebranded as Wi-Fi, where people today can't imagine a world without the word Wi-Fi and all the acronyms. We were 2 years from the first iPod, 8 years before the first iPhone. There were a lot of fears about Y2K and reality TV and tabloid TV. But we were on the cusp, like you said, of amazing things that have transformed the way that we work, transformed the way that we live. And that was a moment of reflection. And I fast forward to today through the lens of, certainly the comedy, but also the reflection, as AI is tracking to be the fastest adopted technology in history. Back in the Office Space days, only about 300 million people in the world were online. That was like 5% of the global population. We're above 75% now for the internet. But we're already at 15% global usage of AI now, and more than half of US adults have used generative AI. We're similarly anticipating a world that hasn't quite come into focus, but we know that these big innovations are here and continuing to evolve in ways that will shape the way that we live. And it's really a huge opportunity. I mean, it's in Office Space, they took the chance to define human beings as what they were not destined to sit in cubicles staring at screens. I think today we actually have a very important opportunity and responsibility to decide who we are and what we're doing. How are we going to use this technology to preserve and amplify creativity, to deepen connection, not just telephony, but people's connections to the other people around them, to people on the other side of the world, to nature, to history, and to see our place in the future. And maybe most of all, to empower more people to act on great ideas. So in some ways, broken out of the cubicle, but I think that AI has absolute breaks out of so many other constraints and open up new horizons. And hopefully we can do it with a grain of humor in there too.
Well said. I appreciate the history. Jamie, I'm going to do something unthinkable. I'm going to ask you to drop off and come back in because you're having bandwidth issues and we're getting some choppiness, and Brenna's hearing it too. And I want to make sure we can hear you, we can understand you, but it's coming and going. And I know you're brilliant and I know you're gorgeous, and I want to make sure everybody gets the full impact of who you are. So rather than struggling with the audio, forgive me if you want to drop off and just come back again and close all of the apps that are not germane to this production and come back. I'll let you in right away, I promise. But I have to tell you, I remember, and you may remember, when our mailboxes, Dawn and Brenna remember, were flooded with AOL shiny discs, CDs, that we were supposed to insert into the disk drive on our computer and load AOL so we could become members. And how many people do you know who still have at AOL.com emails? There are a few.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few.
I think it may be less surprising that AOL was a titan than that Microsoft still is, and the way that Microsoft is actually evolved.
There you go. I have my issues too. Jamie, drop off, come back, and let's hope it's better. We want you clear and sharp, and this is in your best interest, and you'll forgive me. So come back right away. Okay? There we go. Okay. So thank you. Brenna, you agree? We don't want choppy. I want everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to miss what he's saying.
Really appreciate him. Okay, and Don's still good on the phone. Phones work great for online. Seriously, let's go to our predictions. We'll start off, and it'll just be Brenna and Don until Jamie comes back. So, Brenna, I'm picking two of your predictions to put them together. I believe they're both very important, and then we'll see what Don has to say. And if Jamie isn't back right away, we'll pick one from Don, and then we'll go to Jamie. So, Brenna says, successful cities will learn how to leverage AI to evaluate and solve policy problems rather than just make workflows more efficient. That's important. Let Jamie in before you answer that, and then I have another one. Okay, let's let Jamie in. And the second one, Brenna, I'd like you to tie it to community trust will become the binding constraint on AI-driven resilience, not technology. I hope it's okay that I combine them, but I think there's a good link there. Hi, Jamie. Unmute, please. Say hello.
Hello, I'm back.
All right, we'll deal with it. Okay, we just did Brenna's two predictions. Let me read them again so Jamie can hear them. And Brenna's predictions are successful cities will learn how to leverage AI to evaluate and solve policy problems rather than just making workflows more efficient. And the second part is community trust will become the binding constraint on AI-driven resilience, not the technology. So Brenna's going to unpack, and then we'll get Jamie and Don to weigh in, and you don't have to agree with Brenna. It'll be interesting. Okay, Brenna, you're up.
So the first one I mentioned in my intro a little bit, and that's the fact that cities, the most successful cities will move beyond efficiency to AI-driven policy. And so an example I would use is actually more of a state level example in most places, right? Where AI is in many cases already being used to make, for example, food stamps, right? To make sure that they're processed quickly, efficiently, they get to the right people. And that's very important, right? We need to be good stewards of our resources. But making the payment of food stamps faster, more reliable, and more trustworthy doesn't actually solve the underlying problems of food insecurity or the reasons why people apply for food stamps. And so I think that's a more transformative approach for government organizations and the community groups that they partner with to actually think through how AI could inform a problem like food insecurity and what new solutions it might actually drive a government or community group to. And I do think you're right that that's tied to community trust because none of this is going to happen without being mindful around cultivating community trust and relationships. I don't know that anyone would argue with me that community trust in city government is maybe not at an all-time low. I think it might have been a bit lower just before 2020, but it's not good. And that stems from a whole bunch of problems that we could have a whole separate show on. But people are already, scared of AI. They already don't trust their governments to use technology in, equitable and beneficial ways. And if city governments, and this is true at other government levels as well, but if city governments don't learn how to build these solutions with communities and their residents in the process, they're never going to build that trust back up to where it needs, and there won't be the adoption of AI that could really deliver the significant benefits that we've been thinking about, like ending food insecurity.
Well put. Thank you very much. Let's go around the table. Don, thoughts on what Brenna shared? Agree, disagree?
Well, so Brennan and I have been friends for a long, long time, and I do want to comment on one thing you said. It is imperative that I do always agree with her, so I just want to get that out on the table. It just so happens I pretty much always agree with her. I think that what she said is great. It makes a lot of sense. The one thing I would add, and I could be way off on this, but I think that there's enough of a level of mistrust in combination between city government in general and AI that what I would hope we would see are small sort of tangible evidence that this can bring about these type of changes so that people can become more accepting. When I think about the idea of AI being used in policy issues, I mean, I'll go back to the Moneyball thing. It's like you can use AI to see things that might not make their way through the morass of all the biases of people sitting around a table. But if you can draw that out and show a winning formula and do it in a way where people, the population, the citizens begin to say, hey, that kind of makes sense, or hey, yeah, that does help food insecurity, or that does crime, or whatever, then you get those wins that build that trust. But yes, I agree wholeheartedly with Brent.
Thank you. Brenna, aren't you relieved that he agreed with you? Don will
It
send a
always
text.
concerns me when he doesn't.
I know, but I try to nudge him and urge him to once in a while take a step across that friendship line. And Don, we'll get there. You have to come back on more shows. Jamie, thoughts? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I do agree, and digging in even deeper on this idea of municipal government going beyond efficiency, just trying to make good use of what it has, to actually focusing on quality and value and impact and efficacy. That's a huge transformation, and I think that so often, because of limited capacity, because of limited data, and because of other constraints on government, policy is limited to process, and a lot of government activity is just guiding the way that business or life unfolds within cities. And what Brenna's foreshadowing here is a real shift away from just process and towards outcomes. And tying it back to that theme of trust, I think the worst way to build trust is to ask somebody to trust you. You really need to show it. And I think that cities are so well positioned to go way beyond, oh, trust me, it'll be okay. And to show it and to deliver it in 1,000 ways that touch people's day-to-day lives. And AI is unleashing the capacity to do it, and also the capacity to show and tell the stories of impact in a way that has always been difficult to do historically, because the data is not available, or the data is complicated or convoluted, and you lose the signal in the noise. I think we all want to live in a world where local government and all government is focused on the results, not just the process.
Thank you. I have a question for Brenna and for everybody. Brenna, what if policy, trust, efficiency, gains in things like underserved, undernourished populations, what if you don't mention that AI is involved? What if you just say, we've improved the process? It will be better. You can trust in it because it's there for you better, faster, more accurately than it was before. Do you have to tell them that AI is part of the mechanics behind the process? Just tell them the car is going to go faster and it won't need as many trips to the mechanic. I'm making part of this up, but seriously, Brenna, is that a possibility? Is not to scare people who are not AI accepting, shall we say? What do you think?
I mean, I think that will certainly happen if it's not already happening. Because let's be honest, right? AI is running in every device that we're all using at the moment, and we're aware of that because this is a field we work in, but we're not actively managing that right now. I think the risk of what you're proposing, though, Bonnie, is twofold. One, the city government does have some responsibility around helping their residents understand AI so that they aren't making, dangerous decisions or taking risks in other parts of their lives that they shouldn't be, right?
Okay.
Even if your residents 100% trust what city government is doing with AI, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But why would you trust what your bank is doing or what your doctor is doing? And so if cities don't set a precedent around transparency, it won't exist elsewhere. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to be clear around when you are using AI. The other reason is goes back to that trust issue, is because of the biases and the hallucinations and the other challenges around using AI. If you don't know, I had this conversation yesterday of like, how do you build transparency and trust when part of the solution is a black box? There needs to be a way to communicate around what data is being used to drive the decision, what rules are being used to drive decision, or understanding. And while it's probably true that a resident doesn't need to understand like the underlying code of something, I think they
Mhm.
do have to understand the rules that are governing their lives, like we do today, right? If you think about, and I had to vote this weekend, so it's top of mind, right? We know that you have to be 18 to vote, right? We understand that rule. We know you have to live, in the certain jurisdiction where you're voting, or whatever residency rules, right, you have around voting. We all know those rules, and when you turn 18, if you don't know them, you can go to sources and look them up and understand them. So you know how the government is deciding who gets to vote.
Mhm.
Because if not, why wouldn't you question, the 15-year-old in line to vote and why they might be turned away?
Fair enough. Fair enough on trust and transparency. I'm just thinking of the naysayers who will say it couldn't possibly be good for me because it's AI and you're scaring the crap out of me. So
It's a really tempting way to go, but I'm not sure it pays benefits at the end of
it's
the
a
day.
tightrope. Thank you. Don is smiling and now he's shaking his head. Do you want to disagree with anything here, Don?
No,
Okay.
no,
I'm gonna find something, Don.
We got to goad him
no.
into disagreeing with Brenda. Go ahead, Don.
I was biting my tongue because there were a lot of different things that I could have said that would have gone off the guardrails of what you want on this show. So
I
I
know
didn't
that.
say it.
I know that. Yes, I thought so too when she was speaking and when I was speaking. We'll go somewhere else. Let's go to Don's predictions. I'm going to combine two of them here, which are interesting. You say, number three, AI will allow government administrative operations to function better with less staff and less cost. And then in number four, you say agentic AI will facilitate cross sharing of knowledge and processes across previously hardened silos. Why don't we take the one with the silos first, Don? Explain that, please, unpack it, and then we'll talk about the efficiency. So Don first, and then we'll get reactions from Jamie and Brenna. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, so both of these go kind of into my statements of the obvious. So I apologize if my predictions were not more insightful than what it's like me saying, um, I'm driving down the highway. There will be other cars going fast. It's like, okay, of course there will. But when you look at it, the more you understand about agentic AI, well, let me back up. When you think about just the sheer underlying capabilities of AI to do work that would have otherwise taken somebody 10 hours to do that's now being done in 15 minutes. The idea that it's going to collapse the amount of resources, time, people to get things done is really a statement of the obvious. And this is one of those things that almost everybody knows. So when you hear people say, "Oh, well, it's gonna make a big impact on the workforce," yeah, it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, so to what end? What do we do? But when you start to look at agentic AI and the idea that you're going from assessing something to actually doing something and doing it in a collaborative way, and then you map that to almost any organization, but especially something like a government organization, a city, a state, federal, where you have all these silos of, well, this is the Department of Health, this is the transportation and whatever. It's still one city. It's still one body of citizens that need to work and play and live and do all that you do together. And it's there are so many areas where information that can not only be shared but comprehended, understood across these silos lifts everything up. So the various silos can be made to function better, to function more efficiently, and ultimately deliver services to the citizens in a way that is more cost effective and overall effective than it would have been otherwise. And that we could probably come up with 100 different examples, but the net is you're reaching across those silos to make better decisions using that massive body of information that exists.
Thank you. Very insightful. The obvious. Jamie, thoughts on what Don just shared?
Well, Don raises it's an important point, and it's the point right under our nose. But I think historically and even today, a lot of residents view cities as legions of bureaucrats pushing paper and doing it in isolation. And historically, to an extent, that was probably true, where you've got a department managing waste, department managing roads, you've got a department concerned with energy and one economic development. And the world just wasn't quite so intermingled and interconnected the way that you see today. And 20 or 30 years ago, we started bringing departments together physically in conference rooms in city halls all over. And that was actually sort of radical to create cross-functional teams in government. And I think that Don and agentic AI are just projecting that forward much, much faster. We've moved from the sidewalk to the freeway in terms of the speed and the capacity and the throughput with which we can connect different agencies and activities. And with agentic processing of what used to be a lot of paper pushing, we free up what maybe used to be legions of bureaucrats to be more like orchestra conductors. Instead of trying to play the tuba and the clarinet and the trumpet and the drums all at once, you move city officials into the orchestrator roles, where we have agentic AI to play the instruments, and it's really up to our municipal leaders to decide how we blend together all the parts of that symphony.
Thank you. Brenna, thoughts?
I think Jamie and Don are absolutely right, but I think it goes even further. And I'm going to pick up one of Jamie's analogies, right? When he mentioned it's like from going from the sidewalk to the highway. I would say that agentic AI actually empowers a whole new set of drivers that were never on the highway, that never had a car. And so to give you an example, right, the development of vacant land. And I've been working on this for the last few months, and I give full credit to the city of Detroit, who's been doing some amazing preliminary work around this issue. Unlocking the value of vacant land has been incredibly, incredibly hard forever. And it has always fallen to basically the well-funded expertise of developers and their consultants. Right. So if you live on a block and you have an empty piece of property and it concerns you because empty property isn't good for a community, it is incredibly hard for you as an individual or as a community group to understand what you could do with that land, how you would get from point A to B to develop something on it, who even owns it today. And that confusion, which Don pointed out, right, that siloed information that makes it very opaque to actually understand how government works. Agentic AI can penetrate that in a way that empowers users who have not had the expertise and the money before to actually engage in processes that are critical to their life. And you're starting to see some of those being built around the world. So I think it moves beyond the sort of breaking down of the silos to actually allowing people to think entirely differently about how to go from point A to point B and who can actually drive that process.
Thank you. You keep using the word driving, and we've got the highways and the sidewalks, and we've got drivers.
Doing a transportation panel.
We know what's on your mind today, Brenna. Thank you very much. Don, any quick comments back to either one of them, or shall we move on? What do you think?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, good. Jamie, I'm going to your prediction number 2. We're going to go in a different direction here. You say, rather than simply consuming energy, AI orchestrated municipal fleets and facilities will become net exporters of grid flexibility. By selling demand response capacity and virtual power plant services to regional grid operators and wholesale markets, cities will turn clean energy investments into new municipal revenue streams. Whoa, that's a lot to unpack there, but I get the point. So Jamie, why don't you take us through it a little bit, and let's go into something very specific and concrete. Go ahead, Jamie.
Sure. So cities play a lot of roles as regulators, as influencers, and as operators. And I've spent a lot of time working with cities on their municipal assets. It boils down to real estate, buildings, and a lot of vehicles. Cities actually control quite a bit of the physical activity in the geographies where they operate. And we've moved through, I think, an important time when cities, like Brenna was saying earlier, are focused on efficiency, energy efficiency in buildings, doing retrofits, overhauling lighting in buildings and on streets, street lighting, thinking through heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in city-owned properties, thinking about purchasing municipal fleets that get better gas mileage. That was all efficiency thinking. But we're really coming to a turning point now, especially with the convergence of energy and transportation, where beyond efficiency, we can look to cities and large real estate footprint and transportation operators as driving value from the flexibility they can create on the electric grid and on transportation grids through their operating decisions. So I've been thinking and working quite a bit on distributed energy resources. And some people call them virtual power plants. But the idea that our energy system is moving from very supply focused, where the utilities just create all the energy that might be needed, even at the hottest afternoon in the summer when all the air conditioners are cranking, and meeting that demand at all costs. And it really is at all costs with an overbuilt system. So switching from supply side thinking to demand side thinking, where we can look at buildings, we can look at electric vehicles with batteries, we can look at stationary batteries with smart inverters that might be connected to solar on municipal and other buildings. We can start thinking of those as distributed energy resources on the grid that we can use strategically to reduce demand, which then reduces the need for expensive supply during peak hours, which can reduce grid congestion and load on our utility distribution infrastructure. And it's going beyond just using devices or vehicles or buildings efficiently to thinking about their inherent value and the value they could deliver for the grid. And because cities operate so many buildings, so many vehicles, they can actually lead the way as informed, proactive resource managers with an eye on providing grid services through connected EVs that can discharge to the grid, through buildings that can free cool on the hot day so they're not asking for electricity off the grid during that peak time, in a way that actually can be monetized now through wholesale markets or through municipal utilities. And in doing so, be an example to all of the other actors in cities, residents and businesses.
Thank you. Fascinating. Giving back, right? Okay. I always check my electric bill when I get it in the mail from wherever I am right now, and I compare it to the month before, and I say, what did I do differently? That's usually my response. Well, it's warm, so I'm not using the heat all night as much. And the water bill, the same thing. What am I doing as a citizen, as a contributor or a user? What am I doing to regulate my use of the resources? Just a personal comment there. Let's
And
go
it's
around
great, it's great that you're doing that, Bonnie, but wouldn't it be nice if instead of doing it retrospectively, looking at the previous month and the month before that or the year before that, if you could do it and you could get help from AI doing it in real time so that you're fine tuning your energy consumption in a way that is in harmony with the grid and that you can actually earn money doing.
Well, that would be nice. We had a surcharge of $80 a month on our water bills last year because the board decided they needed to do something with the sewers, even though we have septic tanks. There's a sewer somewhere. And after a couple months, they decided they had overcharged and they had already filled up the coffers with what they need, and they took the 80 off. In the meantime, I cut my water consumption down by almost 50%. So now I'm at the minimum every month, and I'm wondering how much more I could use to and earn that minimum because I'm paying a basic amount, and I don't know how much more I could push it and use a little more, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting living in a village out of a bigger city where you don't know who the city is, but you know who the village is. Okay, let's go around the table on Jamie's. Don, you want to go first and comment on Jamie's prediction? We got a couple minutes left, but not a lot. Go, Don.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. First of all, I totally agree with everything Jamie's saying. You know, the idea that you can fine tune what you're doing to match the resources of the grid. The one of the tricks there is with AI, you don't really that you can have an agent that does that for you. You know, AI is making this a reality in ways that it wasn't before. Like when DER systems started being developed years and years ago in Europe, because they were much more aligned to um, carbon reduction and green energy. They weren't necessarily AI driven per se, but they were sort of asymptotically approaching where we are right now. But I think everything Jamie said about the role of cities and the capabilities of this are spot on. And directionally, I think we're moving in a good direction as a result.
Good. Good direction is a good thing. Brenna, thoughts?
Yeah, no, Jamie's absolutely right. And I think that it's an example of how cities can kind of reverse or upend the way that they're thinking about things, and in places where they might have been a consumer, be a contributor, and vice versa as well. And like I said before, right, have that ability to, and this goes back to your individual water bill example, right, have the ability to encourage that kind of deeply informed sort of behavior across their communities.
Thank you. Jamie, I'm going to add one more part of your next prediction. We have just about 3 minutes, but I just would like to get your comments on this because I think it will resonate with all of our viewers and listeners around the world. You talk about neighborhood level quality of life signals. How will AI help with that, Jamie? Just a couple sentences.
So one of the biggest challenges facing cities and city officials is really just knowing what's going on, situational awareness,
Yep.
and between IoT sensors and connected devices, and now AI platforms that can ingest enormous amounts of information and make sense of it, creates a whole new way of understanding what's happening in cities at an overall citywide level and then at a micro level in neighborhoods or even specific blocks. And whether we're talking about traffic congestion or air quality or flooded basements, all of those things happen hyper locally. And oftentimes cities only know that there's a problem when an angry resident calls it in or doesn't call it in, but complains during the next election. And what we're seeing between IoT data platforms and AI-driven analytics is empowering cities to really know what's going on in a way that positions them to act in entirely different ways, much more proactively, much more effectively, and at a much more targeted local level than we've seen historically.
Thank you. What I would like to know is why these little power outage blips happen where I put in two Blue Eddy 300s in my office, one on each side, because I have so much equipment here and I can't afford not to be on because I'm doing 7 live shows a week. But I'm not powering the rest of the house. So I will come home from something or I will just wake up and look and the clock on the stove and the microwave are blinking, Don, because it was a power blip of more than a few seconds and it interrupted the power to the appliances. I never know why. I never know how. Sometimes I know how long it lasted. Spectrum went out this last night for about 4 minutes. The blue light on the router turned red. No idea why. No message from the provider. A little panic, but I wasn't doing a show. But how can I get it back? Resetting, replugging, restarting, and then it came back. How? Why? I would love AI to be able to tell me what the heck is going on. No weather conditions, no lightning, no thunder, nobody doing work in the neighborhood, and services are coming and going as they please. Can AI help with this? A quick yes or no around the table. Jamie?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about situational awareness and then that fine tuning to address a problem in real time.
Thank you. And then you go on your phone with Wi-Fi and you text all your neighbors. You say, is your Wi-Fi down too? Yes, no, yes, no. I have a dish. I don't. I use this. Don, any thoughts? Can AI help with that?
10,000%. It's not even just situational awareness, it's causality. So when you get all the IoT and all this other data, combine it with AI, and then you can say, I'm having problem X and I'm aware that's happening. But Bonnie, you hit on it. It's like, but why is it happening? And it may or may not be obvious, but what AI will allow you to do is to start to figure that out.
I would like to figure that out. I'm probably one of the few people who works around here, but I would like to figure it out. Brenna, yes or no? Real fast. We got 1 minute.
Nope. Yes, and I would just quickly add to what Don said. Not only will AI help you figure out the causation, but communicate it better. Because what we know about humans is we're less worried about the outage itself than we are about understanding why the heck it happened.
Why the heck it happened. And could it have happened the next door neighbor who moved in and cut down 2 trees on my property because the realtor told her it was her yard and it was mine? And there's a crew of 12 people at 6:30 in the morning in 16-degree winter weather ready to cut down 2 50-foot tall trees. And they said it's hers. And I said, no, you know it's mine. And I finally gave the thumbs up and she got to spend multiple thousands of dollars taking them down. The neighbors wanted them down. I still like the trees and I would have known. $1,000 later, I have a property survey. I know I should have gotten one when I moved in. Very interesting living in a community. We're going to leave it at that. I want to thank Brenna always for coming. It's such a delight to have you. And I say delight in a most respectful and professional way. You are such an articulate, flow of great information and compassion and passionate about what you do. And it's very appreciated, and it comes through in so many beautiful ways.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie.
Don, thank you. And Don DeLoach, you are always my trooper, my warrior. I've known Don for years. And Don, it's just wonderful to have you back on the show. And I have great respect for all you're doing with the founders. And I do want you to come and bring me a few later in the year. And Jamie Ponce, I put the accent aigu on your name in all my notes while we were talking. I would have put it on before. And I want to tell you, it's just a delight to have you here. You are certainly well-spoken and so passionate as well about cities and about AI and technology. And I would love to have the three of you back, and we'll talk about that another time. And I'm putting on music from my brand new show, which is called Say What? Good News. And we're going to dance our way out of here. Okay. I do this 5 days a week. It was 3 minutes and 55 seconds today. I covered 4 good news articles. Say what, Brenna? I had to make my own mug. Listen up.
That's fantastic.
And the music is Suno.
Only good news.
Only good news. Morning coffee in my cup. I'm scrolling. I've had enough. Same old drama. Same old feed. Flip that dial. That's what I need. Let those bad vibes fade. Let's get rid of those headlines. We've had enough. Here we go. Hit play. Good news. We talk it out. We lift the mood, right, Jamie? Good people doing what they do. You're all here for good news. Feel that smile coming through. Smile for the three of you. Say goodbye. Bye.